What's up, guys, and welcome to the Crypto Chat. I am your host, Crypto Bob, and joining me, my co-host, Crypto Jimmy, and we will be bringing you the latest analysis on crypto. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. So yesterday, Binance announced that they're going to be banning U.S. customers from trading on their site starting in September. So, Crypto Jim, why do you think Binance is banning U.S. customers?
I don't know. It seems like everybody's banning U.S. customers right now, probably because they want to restrict the more wealthier people, which come from the United States, to invest into a diversified portfolio of cryptos such as Neo, Gas, and some other ones, especially that seem to be from foreign countries. So I don't know. Maybe it's to drive up the bigger cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Litecoin. Maybe that's another reason why. But yeah.
Or maybe it has to do with the fact that they don't want U.S. customers to participate in IEOs. Maybe they're afraid that people will be transferring their money from the U.S. dollar into cryptos that they can pump and make more money on, or it's possible that they just don't want people to invest in these IEOs and make a lot of money. You saw what happened last year when they banned ICOs. The ICO market people made hundreds of millions of dollars in the ICO market, and for the first time, people were able to invest in a product before it hit the market. You can't do that with stocks. You can't do that with traditional stocks unless you're an accredited investor.
But in this case, even if you're, as far as I understand, even if you're an accredited investor, you still cannot participate in these IEOs. Or even ICOs. You can't even participate in them as well, as far as I understand. It just seems like they don't want for the U.S. money to flow into these new projects. But who knows? Who knows what the real reason is? But it seems like the U.S. has been restricted before. I remember when I wanted to get into Bitcoin, I was looking for exchanges to use fiat on, and I couldn't find any. And it wasn't until Coinbase came on that I finally got in 2016. So I don't know. I mean, it just seems like they want to keep away the U.S. customers, keep them poor, and keep them into the U.S. dollar because they know that the U.S. dollar is probably going to crash.
I agree with that on a certain level. I think at some point, once the SEC releases their guidelines on what they consider a security token, what they consider to be a utility token, I think that institutional investors, accredited investors, they will be able to invest in IEOs. I think platforms like Poloniex, Bittrex, even possibly Coinbase at some point will have IEOs. I think it will just be restricted. So that is an issue. It definitely is an attack on capitalism in my opinion. I felt that the ICO market in 2017 was the last true form of capitalism that we've had in this world, because anyone can invest, and there was no barrier in entry. You didn't need to be an accredited investor. You can go and you can buy a project early on if you signed up, if you had the knowledge. So it was great. It was a great time. People were making money.
So the only way you benefited from that if you sold at that time, because now you can't even sell these ICOs because they're being deemed securities, or nobody knows what the regulation is on them. So since that's the case, Poloniex, Bittrex, now Binance is not allowing for U.S. Customers to trade these these coins. So now there's another issue. So
you have until September, or is it September 22nd or 23rd? You have until then to sell into Bitcoin. By the way, this is not financial advice, just my opinion. Okay, so we're gonna discuss which coins we think will do well. So, Crypto Jimmy, what do you think? Which coins do you think will do well as a result of this ban?
Yeah, well, it's kind of easy to understand unless you're an idiot, but or you've never been into cryptos, or you have no clue what's going on, but it's kind of clear that the cryptocurrency side of these digital assets are going to do well. What do I mean by cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency in the sense that they're used as money and not as tokens like Ethereum or Neo or Theta. These platforms. But so obviously Bitcoin, Litecoin, probably Monero, Zcash, probably also Digibyte. These type of cryptocurrencies and also Ethereum. These cryptocurrencies that are mineable are gonna probably do the best in the short amount of time. Because they're going to be used like US dollars. They're probably going to be accepted everywhere. And if they're not going to be accepted everywhere, then you're going to have like atomic swaps, where you're going to be able to instantaneously switch from one coin to another coin. Mm-hmm. So that won't even matter. But obviously the obvious choices are going to be Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Digibyte, and of course, probably one of the most underrated would be XRP Ripple. What do you think about it, Bobby?
I agree. I can't argue with that. I think Bitcoin, obviously, everyone knows about Bitcoin. It's the big dog. All the institutional investors are buying up Bitcoin. I think Litecoin as well. It has a fork coming up. I think it's going to do well this year.
It's not a fork, it's a halving.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Halving coming up.
Misinformation.
Sorry, guys, halving. Yeah. I think it's going to do well.
Don't listen to Ricky Bobby here.
I think Ethereum is probably the most underrated coin. The reason why I say it's the most underrated coin is the most undervalued coin in my opinion, because if you look at that amount of transactions, the amount of volume and activity that goes on the Ethereum blockchain and compared to Bitcoin, there isn't much difference. Yet Bitcoin's market cap is more than 5 times Ethereum. So I think there's a lot of room for Ethereum to run. I think as Ethereum scales, it's going to allow for more dApps to be built on top of Ethereum. It's already the go-to platform for ICOs, IEOs, smart contracts, financial dApps. There's been recently a study that showed that Ethereum has the most financial-based dApps on any platform. I think the only real competitor to Ethereum maybe is EOS, but we're still not sure whether or not the amount of transactions and activity that's going on the EOS network is real or it's bot activity. We don't know. So I think it's very clear that Ethereum is going to do extremely well because it's gone up the least out of, if you look at Litecoin's been the best performer this year. Bitcoin has performed very well, right? Going from 3,100 at its bottom all the way to 9K, right? I think Ethereum is the only one that's being held back, and I
disagree.
Well, I think a lot of people...
I think Ripple is the most undervalued large cap crypto.
Ripple's definitely undervalued, but I think...
You know what? Whenever I hear Ripple, I always think he'll triple. So Ripple, I think, is the most undervalued cryptocurrency.
Why? Why is Ripple so undervalued?
Because one, it's gone up, I think, the least out of the big ones, and two, they're continuously signing on banks onto their platforms, and
are the banks using XRP for transfers?
I'm assuming that they're probably testing it. I don't think they're actually using it. But obviously, the more clients you sign up, the variety of products you're gonna be able to offer them, and one of them, is the XRP token, which is almost instantaneous transaction, almost zero fees, and So I believe Ripple is the most undervalued, the most hated, the most underlooked. And I think Ripple XRP is probably going to surprise everyone. But I don't disagree that Ethereum is undervalued as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that Ripple is the X factor that you're going to see it, but it's going to be too late. I think people are going to realize it once it's like over $5 or something like that, and people are going to start rushing in. And the price is probably going to go to 20 and above, and then people are going to start crying like little babies because they didn't get it at like 30 something cents.
I think Ripple will do very well as well. Definitely has a strong fundamental case for transfer of money. There's a $22 trillion market in there in terms of global transfers between countries, between banks. I think Ripple will be the leader in that area. I think Stellar also is a coin that people should be looking at.
Yeah, Stellar and the IBM partnership, where they keep track of farm foods from production to delivery. That's very vital to check for legitimacy when it comes to the produce that you receive. So I think also XLM as the token, it's going to do tremendously well. But there's a lot of them, but I think that the real main ones that this is not financial advice, this is smart analysis would be to get in always on the top tier coins.
Agreed.
Or the top tier stocks, or whatever is undervalued that is top tier. That's where you want to put your money. Obviously, you have less risk, but at the same time, since the market cap on each one of these is so low, you have a huge opportunity to who knows, maybe 5, 10, 100x your money.
Possibly
in a few years.
It's hard to say. We don't know where the market's going to go. Definitely. But I agree. You should definitely look at the top projects. Bitcoin, obviously, has been around the longest. Litecoin has been around since 2011. Is the second oldest cryptocurrency that's in the top 5. Stellar and Ripple both have survived bear markets in 2014 and are in the top 10 right now. Ethereum never went through a bear market except for this one. It came out in 2015, which was at the tail end of the previous bear market. So Ethereum has less history. However, Ethereum is the king of the smart contract platform right now, and I believe it will remain so. So we just talked about the coins that we think will do well. Which coins do you think people should stay away from? Are there any coins do you think, because of this ban, maybe U.S. investors or just investors in general might want to think twice before investing, or possibly would want to sell into Bitcoin? What do you think?
I mean, right now, NEO, their gas token, not to say that they're bad projects or anything like that, but, the uncertainty of the regulation from the United States government and blah, blah, blah. I guess the coins, you have to really watch out to see what Poloniex has banned, what Bittrex will ban. You almost have very little choice as to what you're going to keep, because we don't know how that's actually going to transpire after the ban. Are they going to unban some of these coins? And yet again, this is these bans are not from the regulation of the government, from the regulators. These are actually individual exchanges that are deciding to ban.
Well, they're only doing this because they're getting pressure from regulators.
Right, but
Binance, for example, they're going to open up a U.S. exchange. We don't know who will be able to use that exchange. Maybe that exchange will only be for accredited investors.
No.
They're trying to cater to U.S. regulations, because if they don't act right now and follow U.S. regulations to ban U.S. customers right now, they'll have a harder time later on breaking into the U.S. market and dealing with accredited investors, which is what I think Binance is going towards.
I don't think so. I don't think you're going to have to be a accredited investor to use Binance's platform. I mean, what would be the point of allowing for a small percentage of people to invest on a public exchange where they probably could already do it over the counter? Well, I don't even understand what would be the point of it, So
I think
I disagree. I think
one end, Binance already can go to many countries around the world, so they already have their retail base.
Okay, but why do they need the U.S.?
Why? Because of regulatory concerns. Also, the SEC has clearly stated many times that they believe that ICOs, and we're assuming IEOs in the same category, are securities, and there hasn't been an outline or any guidelines from the SEC on how they're going to treat these securities. The only thing is that they've said that they're not going to change the Howey test. So we can assume that many of these projects are going to be securities, and I think they don't want any regulatory issues going down the road with Americans participating in the IEO market. That's why I think that's the main reason why. It could also be because the Binance is coming out with their own U.S. exchange, and you could be right. That can also be a big impact. In my opinion, the coins that people might want to stay with right now are, I would say, Neo, probably VeChain. Again, none of this is financial advice, nor am I trying to bash these projects. I love both of those projects. I think they're going to do very well in the future, regardless of whether or not U.S. customers will be able to invest in them. The reason why I think they should stay away from these projects are because both projects, in a way, have a form of dividend, right? They pay a form of dividend, Neo and Gas, and VeChain in their VeChain Thor. That could definitely classify them as securities because stocks pay dividends.
But who cares? Like my question is this.
Well, people need to know.
Who gives a shit whether it's a security or not a security? This is just an excuse to say that, it's a security, it's not being regulated. But yeah, the whole entire crypto market is not being regulated. So
not yet.
So what's right?
So
what's the excuse here? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, people are able to buy securities on E-Trade. And
E-Trade is regulated by the SEC,
right? But then yet again, like what I'm trying to say is, none of these exchanges are technically regulated. So if they're not regulated, there's no regulation yet. But who cares?
It's going towards regulation. And then there's pressure on these exchanges.
Okay, and then let's say they do acquire regulation. Why are these tokens being banned? I mean, why? Do you even know?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm just assuming they're...
Exactly. It's a bunch of BS.
I'm just assuming, like you said, they don't want people to get in on before they explode.
That's it.
That could be a reason why.
Yeah, you got to think with your brain, not your ass. You know what I mean? Like it's a simple understanding of why something is being done. Who cares if it's a security? Who cares if it's a currency or not a currency? Who cares whatever it is? The only issue here is it legit? Is it legitimate? Is it a legitimate project?
Right.
Is it something that people will benefit from or not? That's it. So, but even in the sense of whether you benefit from it or not, you're taking a risk, right? Because everything you do in life is taking a risk. And sometimes you take a risk and you win, and other times you take a risk and you lose.
Are you talking about your own personal life?
I'm talking about you and how you messed up my life. But anyway, that's another podcast story for another time.
I don't think we have enough time to discuss that.
I think we do. He ruined my life. But anyway, whatever. I have a question for you because this is something that a lot of people are trying to predict.
Okay.
and I want to hear your opinion, even though I don't care. But I think maybe people who listen to this might want to know.
Well, I appreciate your honesty.
I am very honest, especially in front of your face. So 2 questions. One question is, by the end of this year, what price is Bitcoin and Ethereum going to be at?
Okay.
And next year, for Bitcoin's halving, same question for Bitcoin and Ethereum.
So I usually hate making predictions because like
yeah, but you've done it many times. But you've done it many times.
That's why I hate it. I've been wrong consistently. But the thing is,
but your dream was right.
That I don't know what he's talking about. Anyways,
he's a liar.
Anyways, it's hard. I mean, it's really hard to predict. Who would have thought that Bitcoin would have went from 3,100 to 8K this quickly? Many people thought that it would consolidate, bounce around 3,000, 5,000, maybe hit 6,000. Many people thought that it would have. Many technical analysts on YouTube, people who are very talented, they thought it wouldn't break 6K or 6,500. Thought it would struggle. So it's really hard to say. I think
Vays.
Tone Vays thought that Bitcoin's going to 1,800.
I think Tone Vays needs to check his brain and not use his ass, but that's just
especially when he's making Ethereum predictions.
Or any other coin.
Well, stepping aside,
everything's a scam. My mom's a scam. My dad is a scam. Well, guess you're the scam too.
Well, let's not get that personal. Going away from Tone Vays, I think if I had to make a prediction, I think Bitcoin will probably get to maybe 13,000, 17,000 by the end of this year, going into the halving. I think there's going to be a lot of FOMO. It's going to push the price up quite a bit. However, I don't see Bitcoin getting back to its all-time high just yet. I think it'll take a little bit longer. I think the whales will at some point put an end to the run just so they can accumulate at a lower price. I could be wrong. But my prediction right now is I would say 13,000 for the end of this year. As far as Ethereum is concerned, I think Ethereum will most likely hit 600 by the end of the year. I think that's a good price point for Ethereum. I think it also coincides with its fundamental value as well. However, anything is possible. It can do better. I think, however, in 2020, I think Ethereum will greatly outperform Bitcoin. The reason why I think that's going to happen is, one, a lot of people aren't going to be paying attention to Ethereum because of the Bitcoin halving. A lot of retail investors are going to be running into Bitcoin, while the whales and smart investors are going to be going into Ethereum. They're going to be pumping Ethereum. I think there's a lot of exciting things coming from Ethereum. The updates and the Byzantinian update, if I'm not mistaken, is coming out. I think Ethereum will introduce a scaling solution probably by the end of 2019. And I think that will allow Ethereum to do very well in 2020. I wouldn't be surprised if it will be the best performing coin of 2020. What do you think?
Okay, so again, quickly recap. By the end of this year, Bitcoin will be at what price?
13,000 by December 2019.
Okay, and Ethereum?
I think 600.
Okay, and next year?
Next year, I think at the halving point, Bitcoin maybe will be at 17,000, 18,000 at the most. I think Ethereum, I'll make a crazy prediction. I think Ethereum will be at $2,000, a new all-time high in 2020. And I think that as if history repeats itself and we're going to enter a 2-year bull market cycle, I think Bitcoin will hit a all-time high of 200,000 by the end of 2021. I know that's pretty far away. Right. And I think Ethereum will be at 20,000.
All right. So
in 2021.
So my prediction, I think, is better, more intelligent. Even though I'm not going to go into
more diluted.
Yeah, it might be, but it's a better understanding of how pricing works in my mind, at least.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of institutional investors that are going to be getting in, and we have Backed, we have Fidelity, we have home offices, Probably we have Tone Vays' parents getting in on it. So there's going to be a lot of money coming in. But my prediction, I think what's going to happen is Bitcoin anywhere from 20 to 25,000. Okay. Ethereum at maybe 3.5 to 5,000
by the end of this year.
Yes, and then next year we're looking at Bitcoin anywhere from 300 to 500,000.
Really?
And Bitcoin, and Ethereum at around I think $10,000 to $15,000. So that's my prediction. If it comes true. I want all the praise and all the accolades, but you know what? I'm probably not going to be doing this podcast anymore. So,
ladies and gentlemen, he's already quitting after the first episode. That shows a man's level of commitment.
Yeah, I am committed, but only to myself.
With your prediction, you might be committed by the end of the year.
No,
but that's
only if it goes negative.
Hey, I would love for that to happen. Of course, I think all of our viewers would love that as well. And of course, we want Bitcoin to do well, but we have to be realistic as well.
Yeah.
None of these predictions are investment advice. Again, it's just our personal opinions.
Don't bang your head up against the ceiling or jump up against the wall and try to break your head if these predictions don't come true. Don't take excess amount of drugs or steroids.
Why would people take steroids?
I don't know.
People, their predictions don't come true.
People go to crazy extremes when
like I said,
things
folks,
don't happen.
He might get committed at the end of the year. We're still consulting with
you might get committed, but I'm not me. I'm okay because I have nothing. I may have nothing. And,
you still don't have nothing.
And yeah, so either way, you come in with nothing and you go out with nothing, and so it doesn't.
Yeah, you just the most important thing is just you never invest more than you can lose. I think
unless you're me, but what's it called?
Unless you're nuts,
Yeah. So anyway, so we're gonna finish up this first podcast. We have Ricky Bobby here and me, Jimmy. So I think we had a really good time, and we hope to see you on our next podcast. Any last words, Ricky Bobby?
We'll see you guys soon. Have a good one.
Okay, bye.